I still remember the night she ran into my life like a wounded shadow. I didn't know her name yet, only the tremor in her voice as she grabbed my coat with both hands and whispered the kind of sentence that freezes a man's soul. My stepfather is selling me. Please, you're the only one who can stop him. I had heard desperate cries before. Being a Mafia boss in New Jersey meant being surrounded by broken truths, but nothing prepared me for the fear in her eyes. It wasn't the fear of death. It was the fear of being erased. My name is Vincent DeLuca, and for years I believed nothing could surprise me. I'd grown up among cold streets, backroom deals, and men who traded loyalty like currency. But that night, in the alley behind Romano's diner, a girl no older than 19 shattered everything I thought I knew. Her clothes were damp from the rain, her hair stuck to her face, and the way she clutched her backpack made it clear. She had run for her life. "Please," she whispered again, her breath shaking. He said tonight. He's expecting someone to pay. But before we continue, I want to make a very special invitation. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like. This helps me see that you support me and are enjoying my stories. And comment below which city you're watching us from. Now, let's continue. I should have walked away. A man like me doesn't take in strays. We don't play heroes, and we certainly don't get involved with innocent girls trapped in nightmares. But something in her voice, maybe the way it cracked when she said selling, dragged me back to memories I fought to bury. My own sister, Lucia, lost to a man who treated her like property before the law could save her. I failed her once. I wasn't going to fail again. "What's your name?" I asked, opening my coat to shield her from the rain. "Emily," she said. Emily Hart. Her last name hit me like a punch. Hart. I knew that name. Gerald Hart wasn't just any stepfather. He was a corrupt contractor with connections to rival crews, a man rumored to sell anything or anyone for the right price. And worst of all, he owed money to people far more dangerous than me. I led her to my car, a black sedan known around Newark for its silence. "Get in," I told her. "No one will touch you tonight." She hesitated. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." I met her eyes. They were bruised with exhaustion, but underneath the fear was a spark, something unbroken. "Because someone should have helped someone I loved," I said, and no one did. As I drove through the wet streets, she sat curled in the passenger seat, her hands gripping her backpack as if the world were still trying to rip it away from her. I didn't rush her. I kept my voice calm. "Tell me everything." She swallowed hard. "My mom married him 3 years ago. I thought he was nice at first. Then he started drinking, shouting, breaking things. Last year he lost everything. He blamed me, said I was a burden he couldn't afford." She looked out the window, eyes full of rain and memory. "Tonight, he locked me in my room, said a man was coming with cash." My jaw tightened. "And your mother?" "She's gone," Emily whispered. "Left 2 months ago and never came back." That told me everything. A girl alone with a man drowning in debt. A man who saw profit where he should have seen family. When we reached my safe house, a modest apartment above an old bakery, I checked the street twice before unlocking the door. Inside, the warm air fogged her glasses. She looked around as if stepping into another world. "You're safe here," I said. "No one knows this place." "You live above a bakery?" she asked. I cracked a faint smile. "Even bad men need good bread." She didn't laugh, but her shoulders softened. For the first time, she let her backpack fall. Inside it, I later learned, were only 2 shirts, a picture of her mother, and a small journal filled with poetry. Poetry so raw, it felt like touching someone's open wounds. "Emily," I said gently, "I need to ask you something important. Did your stepfather say the buyer's name?" She shook her head. "Only that it was someone with money. Someone who wanted quiet deals." That was enough for me to understand. There were only a few groups in our city who trafficked in silence, and only one who had been encroaching on my territory. The Rinaldi Syndicate, an enemy crew, violent, careless, hungry. And this, for them, wouldn't be business. It would be leverage, an attempt to humiliate me by operating on my side of the river, taking what they wanted while pretending I wouldn't notice. But they'd made one mistake. They touched someone under my protection. even if she didn't know it yet. "Emily," I said softly, sitting across from her, "I'm going to stop him. You won't go back there. Not now. Not ever." Her voice cracked. But what if he finds me? What if the buyer finds me? They'll have to walk through me first." She looked at me for a long moment, as if trying to understand what kind of man I truly was. A criminal? Yes. A sinner? Many times. But in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't felt in years. Trust. Fragile. Trembling. But real. And I made her a silent promise that burned deeper than any oath I had taken in the streets. No matter what it cost me, I would not let her be taken. Not by her stepfather. Not by the syndicate. Not by the past she was running from. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Emily wasn't just a victim needing protection. She was the key to a secret that would unravel everything I built and everything I believed about my own family. But that revelation would come later. For now, the storm outside thickened, and the night grew heavy around us, and the men who wanted her were already on their way. Emily fell asleep on the couch sometime after 3 in the morning, exhaustion finally pulling her under. She looked smaller in sleep, curled beneath the blanket like someone who'd learned early that safety didn't last. I stood by the window, watching the street below. The rain had eased, but the city still carried that quiet that comes before trouble. Men like Gerald Hart didn't give up easily, and men who bought girls didn't wait patiently. I wasn't afraid of them finding me. I was afraid of them finding her. When the first weak light of dawn touched the sky, I made coffee and checked the messages on my encrypted phone. 2 of my guys, Marco and Trent, had been watching Gerald's house since I sent them at midnight. Marco's text was brief, as always. "Lights on." One car came at 2:15, left angry, heart pacing. That told me everything. The buyer had shown up, Emily had escaped, and Gerald was panicking. Good. Let him panic. I stepped quietly across the room, but even the soft sound of my boots woke her. She sat up fast, clutching the blanket. "Is it morning? Did he come looking?" "No one knows you're here," I said. "Drink something. You barely ate yesterday." She nodded, rubbing her eyes. "Are you going to talk to him?" "I'm going to do more than talk." I poured coffee into a mug. I need to know who he called, who he owes, and why he thought he could make a deal like that in my territory. She looked down at her hands. "He's not going to tell you anything. He only talks when he thinks someone's afraid of him. Then he's about to be very disappointed." Her breath hitched. She wasn't afraid of me, but she was afraid for me. That surprised her almost as much as it surprised me. "Can I come with you?" she asked suddenly. "No." My answer was sharp. Too sharp. I softened my tone. "If he sees you, he'll grab you like you belong to him. And I'm not risking that." She pressed her lips together. Not angry, just defeated. I hate that he still has that power. I crouched beside her so she had to look at me. "Emily, listen. He doesn't have power. He has desperation. There's a difference." She nodded, but something in her expression held back, as if there was a truth she wasn't ready to speak. I didn't push. People open their wounds in their own time. Before leaving, I handed her a burner phone. "You call me if you hear anything, even a floorboard creak. Don't open the door for anyone." "I won't." She swallowed. "Vincent, thank you." Gratitude was something I rarely heard. It settled strangely in my chest as I locked the door behind me. The morning smelled of wet pavement and old bread from the bakery below. My men were waiting in a sedan across the street. I slid into the back seat, nodding at Marco. "What's the house look like?" I asked. "Bad shape," he said. "He's yelling at someone on the phone. Angry, panicked." "Good. Take me there." As we drove through Newark's narrow streets, the neighborhood shifted from soft morning quiet to the harsher lines of men leaving night shifts and kids waiting for buses. No one looked at our car. They never did. Gerald's house was a sagging 2-story with peeling paint and a chain-link fence leaning like it had given up. The porch light flickered, the universal sign of neglect. He opened the door before we even knocked, his face blotchy and wild. "You, DeLuca?" he said, voice cracking. "What the hell do you want?" I stepped forward slowly, letting him feel every inch of the silence between us. "We need to talk." "I don't have time." "You do now." He backed up. "Good." Fear had finally found the right address. Inside, the living room smelled of stale beer and old anger. Papers covered the table, bills, notices, and what looked like a ledger. Gerald kept glancing at it. "How much do you owe?" I asked. He flinched. "None of your business. I'm making it my business. You tried to sell a girl in my territory. That's a problem." It wasn't like that," he stammered. "I just needed help paying off some people. You don't understand what it's like, being cornered." "I understand perfectly," I said. "Who was the buyer?" He pressed a shaking hand to his forehead. "If I tell you, they'll kill me. If you don't tell me, I'll let my silence do the talking and they'll think you double-crossed them. So choose." His breathing quickened, his eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. Finally, he whispered, "Rinaldi." I expected anger. Instead, a cold understanding settled in me. The Rinaldis weren't desperate for money. They wanted influence, territory, pressure points. So why Emily? "What does your debt have to do with them?" I asked. He hesitated again. Too long this time. I stepped closer. "Gerald, why her?" That's when he broke. He sat on the couch, elbows on his knees, shaking his head. "They said she wasn't just some girl, that she had something they wanted, something her mother left behind." My pulse tightened. "What?" "She had a box," he said. "A metal one. Always kept it locked. Said it was for Emily when she turned 21. I never opened it. When she left, she tried to take it, but the syndicate convinced her to leave it behind. They said they'd hold on to it until she paid her debts." Paid her debts? Emily's mother had debts with the Rinaldis? Why? And why would they want the box badly enough to buy the girl connected to it? I pulled out my phone. "Marco, check the house. Find a metal box." As he began searching, Gerald whispered, "Please, don't tell them I talked. They'll make me disappear." I looked at him. A man who tried to sell a girl for survival. A man who thought fear justified anything. I didn't hate him, but I felt nothing for him either. "You did that to yourself," I said, turning away. When Marco returned, he wasn't holding a box. He was holding a photograph, one that drained the breath from my lungs. In the picture, Emily's mother stood beside a man, my father. For a long moment, the room fell silent. So silent I could hear the ticking of the cheap wall clock above Gerald's broken television. Marco held the old photograph carefully, as if afraid the truth inside it might spill onto the floor. Emily's mother stood on the left, smiling faintly, her hair swept by wind, as if the picture had been taken during a day she wanted to remember forever. And next to her, resting a hand on her shoulder, with the quiet confidence of a man who believed he controlled destiny, was my father, Lorenzo De Luca, a name that once meant power in every corner of Newark, a name that built empires and broke families, a name I spent my entire life running from, even as every street reminded me who I belonged to. "What is this, Gerald?" I forced out. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Fear grew faster in silence. I told you," he stammered. "Her mother had connections. I didn't know they involved your family." My chest tightened. My father had died 12 years ago, but his shadow stretched across the city like a long, cold winter. If he'd been involved with Emily's mother, then nothing about this situation was accidental. Marco handed me the photo. The edges were worn. Someone had carried it a long time. Someone had looked at it often. Someone who missed the man standing beside her. "Where did you find this?" I asked. "In the bedroom," Marco replied. "No metal box, though, but the place is a mess. Someone's been searching for something." Of course they had. If the Rinaldis knew the box existed, they wouldn't stop until they found it. Or her. Gerald rubbed his face. "I didn't even know who the guy was until some men came last month and asked me questions. They showed me a picture of your father. They wanted to know if I recognized him." "And what did you say?" "I said no," he insisted. "I didn't want trouble, but they said Emily's mother owed them something connected to him, and that Emily might know where it was hidden." My father. Emily's mother. A box locked and guarded for years. Whatever this was, it ran deeper than a debt. I walked toward the window, needing air that the room couldn't give me. Outside, a thin beam of sunlight cut through clouds, landing on the cracked sidewalk. The world kept moving, unaware that everything inside me had shifted an inch off its foundation. Marco's voice broke the silence. "Boss, what do you want to do with Hart?" Gerald froze, waiting for judgment like a man watching his own verdict being written. "Leave him," I said finally. "If the Rinaldis want him, they'll find him. If they don't, he'll still live with what he tried to do." Relief and shame flooded his face in equal measure. "Thank you. I mean it." I didn't answer. I didn't do it for him. I did it because hurting him wouldn't give Emily back her childhood, or erase the fear she carried like another layer of skin. As we stepped outside, the wind hit my face sharply, snapping my focus back into place. I slipped the photograph into my coat and turned toward the car. "We're going back," I said. Marco nodded and opened the back door. But before I stepped in, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Except it wasn't unknown, not to me. Only one person still alive used that code. Rinaldi. A text appeared. "Bring us the girl, Vincent. You know she doesn't belong to you." Another message followed before I could breathe. "And if you don't, we'll come to your doorstep. Again. Again." So they had sent someone last night, and they would be back. I shoved the phone into my pocket and got in the car. Marco's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. "Trouble?" "They know she's with me," I said. "Step on it." When we reached the bakery building, something felt wrong. Not visibly, not obviously, but my instincts sharpened, the same instincts that kept me alive when others didn't make it past 25. "Marco, circle the block," I said. He did. Slowly, carefully. That's when I saw it. A van parked 2 buildings away. Dark, no markings, windows tinted. But the tires were wet even though the street had dried. It had arrived recently. My pulse surged. "Keep going," I ordered. "If they see us stop, they'll make their move." We drove around the corner and parked behind the hardware store. I stepped out immediately. "Trent, with me. Marco, take the back stairs." I kept my weapon holstered. I wouldn't use it unless absolutely necessary. But I would be ready. My boots hit each step with the sound of controlled urgency. When I reached the apartment door, I knocked once, the signal so she would know it was me. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. A knot twisted in my stomach. Not fear. Determination sharpened to a blade. I unlocked the door. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Then I saw her. Emily stood by the kitchen counter, pale as moonlight, clutching the burner phone with trembling hands. Her eyes flew to mine the moment the door opened. "They called," she whispered. My heartbeat turned to stone. "Who?" "A man. He said my name. He said he wants the box. He said he knows you took me." I walked toward her slowly, not wanting to add to her fear. "Did they say where the box is supposed to be?" "No." Her voice cracked. "But he said my mother never paid her debt, that her secrets are now my responsibility." Secrets. I took out the photograph and set it gently on the counter. She stared. Then her breath stopped. "That's my mom," she whispered. Her fingers traced the image. "But who is he?" "My father," I said. "Lorenzo De Luca." Her eyes lifted, wide and frightened, but not of me, of the truth unfolding under her feet. "Your father knew my mother?" "Yes. And the Rinaldis think whatever she left behind ties into something bigger, something my father didn't want anyone to find." A tear slipped down her cheek. "Why would they want it so badly?" "Because anything connected to my father is dangerous in the wrong hands. He kept records, evidence, names, the kind of information that could destroy entire organizations." She swallowed. "So if the box is connected to that, then they don't just want me. They want leverage against you. Not leverage, control. My father's sins were reaching from the grave to drag her into a war she didn't ask for." "Emily," I said softly, "I won't let them take you, but I need to know something." She nodded hesitantly. "When your mother left, did she say anything about something she was protecting? Something meant for your future?" Emily took a shaky breath. "Yes. She said, when I turned 21, I would finally understand why she made the choices she made. She said the truth was locked away until I was strong enough to face it." Her voice trembled. "Vincent, I turned 21 in 3 months. Before I could respond, Trent entered the apartment, panting. "Boss, the van. It's empty now, and the building across the street. Someone's watching the windows." Emily's hand tightened around my arm. The war had already begun. The moment Trent said someone was watching the windows, the apartment seemed to shrink around us, every shadow turning into a threat. Emily's fingers dug into my sleeve with instinctive fear, and I gently loosened her grip so she wouldn't cut herself on her own panic. Her breath trembled, but she stayed upright. There was more strength in her than she realized. "Trent, take the south stairwell," I ordered. "Marco will cover the alley. No one gets in or out without us knowing." He nodded and disappeared down the hall. I turned back to Emily. The photograph still lay on the counter between us, the image of our parents frozen in a truth that felt heavier by the second. I needed answers, and Emily needed safety. The problem was that both of those things lived on opposite ends of the same burning wire. "We can't stay here," I said quietly. "They're testing the perimeter. That means they're planning something." "How do you know?" Her voice was soft but steady. "Because that's what I would do." Her eyes widened with a mix of fear and trust, two things that don't usually survive in the same heart. "Where do we go?" "To someone who owes me a favor." I grabbed my coat and the photograph, slipping it into the inside pocket. "And someone who knew my father better than anyone." "Who?" she asked. "A man named Samuel Graves." That name meant nothing to her, but it meant everything to me. Samuel had been my father's fixer, loyal, sharp, never afraid to speak the truth. When my father died, Samuel vanished from the life, retreating to a remote cabin in upstate New York. He swore he'd never return to the city, but Samuel kept track of secrets, like a man kept track of debts. If anyone knew what Emily's mother had left behind, it was him. As we stepped into the hallway, Emily paused. "Vincent, what if the box is something dangerous, something that could hurt people?" I looked at her. "Boxes don't hurt people. Secrets do." She nodded, though worry clouded her eyes. She walked close beside me as we descended the back stairs. Her steps were careful, quiet, but she never slowed. As much as she feared the Rinaldis, she feared being powerless more. The alley behind the bakery was empty, except for Marco hiding in the shadows near the dumpster. He stepped out when he saw us. "Van's still there. No movement." "They're waiting for us to make a mistake," I said. "So we won't." I guided Emily quickly into the car. She ducked her head instinctively, and I closed the door behind her. When I settled into the passenger seat, Marco started the engine, rolling us past the row of buildings without drawing attention. Only when we turned onto the main road did Emily exhale. I glanced back. She hugged her backpack to her chest. "Do they really want me because of a metal box?" she asked. "They want you because they believe your mother hid something from them," I said. "Something tied to my father. Something worth more than money." She bit her lip. "My mother never talked about him. I didn't even know she knew your father." "That makes two of us," I muttered. She looked at me gently. "Does it hurt to find out something like that?" I didn't answer right away. I watched the wet city roll past, the early sunlight hitting puddles and turning them into patches of trembling gold. "My father kept more secrets than most men keep regrets," I said finally. "I stopped asking questions a long time ago. But this isn't a coincidence. He left something unfinished, and your mother was caught in the middle. And now I'm caught too." Her voice thinned with emotion. "You're not alone in it," I said. "Not anymore." A small, fragile calm settled over her. She leaned her head against the seat, but she didn't sleep. Too much had happened for sleep to feel safe. 2 hours later, the city fell away behind us as forest-lined roads opened ahead. The scent of pine drifted through the cracked window. Emily watched the trees with a sadness that felt older than her years. "Have you always lived in Newark?" she asked. "Born and raised," I said. "My childhood wasn't simple. My father expected a lot, and whatever he couldn't control, he tried to crush." Her gaze softened. "Is that why you left his world?" "I never left it," I said quietly. "I just learned to reshape it." She didn't judge me. Not once. That startled me more than anything the Rinaldis had done. We arrived at Samuel Graves's cabin near noon. It stood alone in a clearing, smoke drifting lazily from the chimney. The place looked peaceful, but that was the trick Samuel always mastered. Peace on the outside, prepared for war on the inside. As we approached the door, Emily tugged on my coat sleeve. "What if he doesn't want to help us?" "He will," I said, though the truth was more complicated. Samuel didn't help people. He helped causes, and he followed his own rules. I knocked once, then twice. The door opened halfway, revealing a man in his late 60s with gray hair, a trimmed beard, and eyes that could dissect a person in 2 seconds flat. "Vincent." His voice was low, steady. "Didn't think I'd see you again." "I need answers, Samuel," I said. "About my father, and about her mother." His gaze slid to Emily. He studied her the way a surgeon studies an X-ray. "She has her mother's eyes." Her breath caught. "You knew her?" Samuel stepped aside without another word, letting us in. The cabin was tidy, warm with the smell of wood and old books. Emily looked around with a mix of nervousness and curiosity. Samuel motioned for us to sit. "Your father and Emily's mother were not strangers," he said. "And whatever you think you know only the surface." I leaned forward. "Then tell me the truth." Samuel folded his hands. "The Rinaldis are after the box because it isn't just a box. Your father gave it to Emily's mother before he died." His eyes hardened. "And what's inside could ruin the Rinaldi syndicate forever." Emily's voice shook. "Then why didn't my mother destroy it?" "Because it wasn't hers to destroy," Samuel said quietly. "Your mother wasn't hiding something from the Rinaldis." He turned his steady gaze toward me. "She was hiding it for your father." Emily's hand gripped the edge of the table. "But why me? Why involve me at all?" Samuel inhaled slowly, as if preparing to release a secret that had been chained for years. "Because your mother made a promise," he said. "A promise to Lorenzo De Luca that you would reveal the truth when the world was finally ready to hear it." I felt my pulse thicken. "Ready to hear what?" Samuel's answer was almost a whisper. "That Lorenzo De Luca never died the way the world believes." Emily's breath left her body. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. Samuel met my eyes. "He didn't die in an accident, Vincent. He was killed." He paused. "And the Rinaldi family covered it up. For years, I had believed my father's death had been a tragic accident on a deserted road outside the city. A tire blowout, a loss of control, a fire that spread too quickly. That was the official story. The police closed the case in 3 days. The newspapers mourned a controversial businessman. And I forced myself to accept it because no one dared challenge a story written in stone. But Samuel's words shattered that stone in one strike. "He was killed," Samuel repeated, "and the Rinaldi syndicate made sure the world believed otherwise." The cabin fell painfully silent. Emily stared at Samuel with wide eyes, her breath shallow, as if the truth had reached inside her and pulled something loose. I felt something break inside me too, not grief, not rage, but the sharp recognition of betrayal that runs deeper than blood. I finally found my voice. "Who killed him?" Samuel didn't look away. "Rinaldi's second in command at the time. A man named Aldo Serrano." The name hit me like a blade. Serrano. A man who had been circling my territory for months, testing boundaries, coaxing my enemies, stirring unrest. I had always wondered why. Now I understood. He wasn't after power. He was after the final piece of my father's legacy. Before we continue, tell me in the comments what you think of this story so far and what you would do in his place. Don't leave the video, because what comes next will give you chills. Emily pressed a hand to her chest, trying to steady herself. "But why would he kill your father? Why lie about it? What were they trying to hide?" "The truth," Samuel said. "Your father discovered something that threatened the entire syndicate. Records. Dealings. Names they wanted erased. He gathered everything in that metal box and gave it to someone he trusted." "My mother," Emily whispered. "Yes," Samuel replied. "She agreed to protect it until Lorenzo could expose them. But he didn't get the chance. And once he was gone, the Rinaldis realized your mother still had the evidence. They demanded it. She refused. So they destroyed her life piece by piece until she had nothing left." Emily's face crumpled. "That's why she ran. She didn't abandon me. She was trying to protect me." "Yes," Samuel said softly, "and she never stopped." Emily covered her mouth as tears fell. All her life she had believed her mother had given up on her. Now she learned the opposite. Her mother had fought for her until the very end. "What happened to her?" I asked, my voice harsher than I intended. Samuel hesitated. "She disappeared 3 months after Lorenzo's death. Most assume the Rinaldis got to her. Emily let out a quiet, broken sound. I moved closer, not touching her, but close enough for her to feel she wasn't alone. She loved you, Emily, Samuel said gently. Enough to risk everything. Enough to pass the responsibility to the only person she trusted more than herself, her daughter. Emily wiped her tears with shaking hands. But I don't understand why the Rinaldis think I know where the box is. I don't even know what it looks like. You don't need to know, Samuel said. You were her last remaining connection. If she hid the box, she left something behind for you. A clue, a location, something only you could recognize. Her eyes widened and she whispered, "My journal." I turned to her. "What about it?" "I always thought it was just a notebook for my poems," she said. "But my mom gave it to me on my 18th birthday. She said it was time for me to start hearing my own voice. I didn't think anything of it. But now, maybe she meant more." Samuel nodded. Parents hide truth in the places their children never question. Look inside it, Emily. Not at the words, but at the pages. She pulled the worn journal from her backpack, gently flipping through it. Her handwriting filled the pages. Ink smudges, crossed-out lines, fragments of emotion captured in rushed strokes. But halfway through, she froze. "Vincent," she whispered. "Look." Between two pages was a thin piece of paper I had never seen. It was so flat it blended with the book, almost invisible. Emily carefully pulled it free. It was a hand-drawn map, simple, rough, but clear enough. A closed storage unit, outside of Newark, marked with one word, "For her." Emily's hands shook. "She hid it for me, all this time. She left this for me." I touched the edge of the map. "Then we know where the box is." "No," Samuel said softly. "You know where the box was." Emily looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Samuel let out a slow, regretful breath. 2 weeks ago, I intercepted a message from the Rinaldis. They were close to finding something at a storage facility. I didn't know it was connected to you until now. And if they found it, he paused, then they already have the box. Emily's face drained of color. "No, but my mother?" I steadied her shoulders. "Emily, listen. Even if they have it, they don't understand it yet. If they did, they wouldn't be circling us. They'd be making moves." Samuel nodded. "He's right. The box may be in their hands, but they don't know how to unlock the information inside it. The key is protected by a code only your mother and one other person knew." Emily swallowed. "Who?" Samuel looked directly at me. "Your father, Vincent." A cold sensation rippled through me. "Are you telling me I'm the only one who can unlock what's inside that box?" "Yes," Samuel said. "Your father built the code around the one thing only his bloodline could decipher." Emily stared between us with rising realization. "So they're not just after me. They're after you." The truth settled heavily between us. The Rinaldis weren't trying to reclaim old power. They were trying to erase the last living connection to the only man who could destroy them. "We don't have much time," Samuel said. "If they decode the box before you get to it, everything your father and Emily's mother risked their lives for will be lost." Emily's voice trembled. "What do we do now?" I didn't hesitate. "We take the fight to them. We get the box before they open it. And then we expose everything." Emily gripped the journal tightly, eyes fierce with a new kind of courage. "I'm with you." Samuel nodded. "If you two are walking into that storm, you'll need help. And I know exactly where to start." I felt the weight of the moment settle into my bones. For years, I walked through life believing my father's shadows belonged only to me. Now I understood they belonged to Emily too, and neither of us would outrun them alone. Samuel led us deeper into the cabin, past a row of shelves filled with dusty binders, old cassette tapes, and stacks of handwritten notes. It wasn't a home. It was an archive of a life spent cleaning the messes other men left behind. Emily walked beside me, holding her journal as if it were the last piece of her mother she could still touch. "We can't storm the Rinaldi compound alone," Samuel said. "But we don't need an army. We need precision." He stopped at a wooden chest and opened it. Inside were files neatly arranged by year. He pulled out one marked with a black ribbon. "This is everything I collected on Aldo Serrano after your father's death." I scanned a few pages. Meetings, payments, secret business fronts. The man had built his empire on quiet corruption. the kind that doesn't show up in headlines. Emily watched me read, her eyes following every shift in my expression. "What does it tell us?" she asked. "That Serrano is careful," I said. "He doesn't move unless he knows the outcome, which means if he took the box, he hasn't opened it yet." "Why not?" she whispered. "Because he's afraid of what's inside." Samuel nodded. "If your father's code is still intact, Serrano will need time to decipher it. But he's getting desperate, which means he'll make mistakes." Emily took a deep breath. "What if we could make him move faster? Force him into a mistake big enough for us to catch him?" I looked at her, surprised by her instinct. "You're thinking like someone who understands leverage." "I'm thinking like someone who's tired of being hunted," she said, and she meant it. Samuel closed the file. "There's another angle. Serrano's not working alone. He hasn't used the full strength of the Rinaldi syndicate yet. He's keeping this quiet, as if he doesn't want the family head to know." "Internal conflict," I said. "That's something we can use." Emily frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means Serrano is breaking rules inside his own family," Samuel explained. "He's hiding something even from his boss. If we expose that, we weaken his power. And we get the box," I finished. The plan was forming, not clear yet, but taking shape like a shadow growing into a figure. I stepped closer to Samuel. "What exactly did my father uncover before he died?" He hesitated. "Are you sure you want the truth, Vincent? Some things can't be undone." I folded my arms. "Tell me." Samuel took a deep breath. He discovered that the Rinaldi syndicate had been laundering money through political campaigns for years, judges, councilmen, even government contractors. Your father gathered documents, recordings, and witness statements, enough to bring down half the city's corrupt infrastructure. Emily's eyes widened. "So the box contains all of that?" "Yes," Samuel said. "And if Serrano gets to it before you do, he'll destroy everything. He has the most to lose." The weight of my father's legacy pressed onto my shoulders, colder than grief, heavier than anger. I had always believed he cared more for power than for me. Now, I was learning he tried to protect the city from the same darkness he once served. Emily placed a hand on my arm. "Vincent, your father died trying to do the right thing." I didn't know what to say to that. It was easier to hate a ghost than to mourn a man who might have been better than I remembered. But Samuel wasn't finished. "There's something else you need to understand." He looked at Emily. "Your mother wasn't just protecting the box. She was helping Lorenzo build the case. She was his partner in uncovering the truth." Emily froze. Her breath caught in her throat. "My mother worked with him." "Yes," Samuel said. "They trusted each other, deeply. And she believed the only way to keep you safe was to disappear once he died." Emotion flickered across Emily's face. Grief, pride, confusion, but also strength. "I wish I could tell her I understand now," she said softly. I rested a hand on her shoulder. "You're honoring her more than you realize." She met my eyes, and something passed between us, an unspoken bond, fragile but real. Samuel cleared his throat, drawing our attention back to the table. "We need to act before Serrano realizes you're both working together. The longer we wait, the closer he gets to cracking the code." Emily looked down at the map from her journal again. "If the box is already gone, what do we do with this?" "This," I said, tapping the paper, "is proof your mother tried to protect the truth until her last breath. Serrano won't expect us to know his moves. That gives us the advantage." Samuel walked to a cabinet and pulled out a set of keys. "We'll go after the box tonight, but there's one more person we need." "Who?" I asked. "Someone who used to work for Serrano. Someone he thought he silenced." Samuel's voice tightened, but I kept him hidden. I looked at him sharply. "You never mentioned this." "Because it wasn't time," he said. "Now it is." He stepped outside and signaled toward the trees. After a moment, a figure emerged from the shadows, a man in his 40s with scars across his jaw and eyes that carried years of fear and fire. Emily stepped closer to me. "Who is that?" Samuel answered softly. "His name is Jonah Reyes. He was Serrano's driver for 5 years. He knows the compound inside and out." Jonah approached quietly, his expression guarded. "Samuel said you're going after Serrano." His gaze shifted to me. I've waited a long time to see him pay for what he's done." "What did he do to you?" Emily asked gently. Jonah hesitated. "He tried to kill me when I refused to deliver a shipment I knew was connected to trafficking. I barely survived." Emily's expression tightened with empathy. She wasn't afraid of him. She was heartbroken for him. I nodded slowly. "If you help us get inside, you'll have your justice." Jonah met my eyes. "I don't want revenge. I want truth, and I want that man out of power forever." Emily stepped forward. "Then we're on the same side." Jonah gave her a look of quiet respect. In that moment, the four of us stood in a fragile circle, bound not by blood, not by loyalty, but by something far more dangerous: shared purpose. Samuel folded the map, handed it to me, and spoke with steady resolve. "Tonight, we go after the box. But understand this, Serrano will not give it up without a fight." Emily lifted her chin. "Then he'll learn something tonight, too." "What's that?" Jonah asked. She spoke softly, but with strength that surprised even her, that the truth has a way of surviving. And for the first time since this began, I believed it. By dusk, the sky had turned the color of bruised steel, and the wind carried a tension that felt almost alive. We left Samuel's cabin in 2 cars, one driven by Marco with Jonah beside him, and another with Emily and me. She sat silently in the passenger seat, her journal on her lap, fingers tracing the edges as if drawing strength from its worn cover. She didn't look afraid anymore. She looked determined. "We'll get the box," I told her quietly. She nodded. "I know." Then her voice softened. "Vincent, if we find out something about your father, something painful, are you ready for that?" I kept my eyes on the road. "I've lived my whole life carrying his mistakes. Maybe it's time I carry his truth too." She didn't speak after that. She didn't need to. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was full of purpose. Before we continue, tell me in the comments what you think is inside the box and what you think will happen when we face Serrano. Don't blink now, because what comes next is the moment everything begins to unravel. The Rinaldi compound sat on the edge of the industrial district, hidden behind a row of abandoned warehouses. From above, it looked like any forgotten property, but from the street, you could feel the danger radiating from it. High fences, security cameras, a long driveway that forced anyone approaching into plain sight. Jonah guided us to a side road where the trees grew wild and the pavement cracked with weeds. "This way," he said. "Serrano uses a private back entrance, less guarded but still risky." Emily looked out the window at the rusted metal structures ahead. "How do you know they won't see us?" Jonah answered with grim certainty. "Because I used to be the one watching." He pointed to a narrow path that cut between 2 warehouses. "Park here. We go the rest of the way on foot." We stepped into the darkness, the air thick with the smell of oil and damp concrete. Emily walked close to me, not out of fear, but because she knew we needed to move together. Jonah led the way, careful and precise, his body remembering old routes even as his mind recoiled from them. At the back of the compound, Jonah crouched behind a metal barrier. "2 guards by the loading door," he whispered. "But they rotate every 15 minutes. When they move, we slip inside." Emily glanced at me. "What if they don't rotate tonight?" "They will," Jonah said. "Serrano never changes routine unless something goes wrong, and he doesn't know we're here." He was right. 6 minutes later, both guards walked toward the opposite side of the building, talking quietly. Jonah motioned for us to follow. I stayed beside Emily, shielding her from the open space as we crossed to the door. Jonah picked the lock in less than a minute and pushed it open silently. Inside was a maze of corridors lined with crates, metal shelves, and the low hum of industrial generators. Jonah moved quickly, whispering directions. "Storage rooms are on the far end. Serrano keeps anything important in the archive vault." "How many guards inside?" I asked. "On a normal night?" 4. "But if he has the box..." Jonah's jaw tightened. He may have doubled security. As if summoned by his words, a distant voice echoed from down the hall. Emily stiffened. I raised my hand, signaling silence. Footsteps approached. Slow, steady, deliberate. Jonah motioned for us to duck behind the crates. 2 guards walked past, carrying clipboards. "Boss said no one goes near the vault," one muttered. "Yeah, well, Boss is losing sleep over that damn box, the other replied. He's afraid someone's gonna crack it. Emily's eyes widened, but she didn't panic. She listened. They continued walking, unaware of us watching. Jonah released a slow breath. He's getting anxious. That means the box is close, and he doesn't trust his own men. We followed the guards at a distance, using the shadows like a second skin. Emily stayed behind me, stepping exactly where I stepped, barely making a sound. For someone who had lived her life in fear, she carried herself like someone discovering her own strength. At the end of the hall stood a steel door with a keypad. Jonah knelt in front of it, pulling wires from the panel. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from old memories resurfacing like ghosts. "Can you open it?" Emily whispered. "Yes," he said. "But once I do, Serrano will know someone's inside the vault." "That's fine," I said. "We won't be here long." Jonah nodded once and crossed 2 wires. The keypad flickered, then went dark. The lock clicked open. We stepped inside. The vault wasn't large, but it was fortified. Metal shelves lined the walls, each filled with folders, hard drives, encrypted devices. And at the center of the room, sitting on a table under a single overhead light, was the box. Metal, heavy, silver with black hinges, exactly as Samuel described. Emily's breath hitched. "That's it." I stepped forward and lifted it gently. It was cold to the touch, solid, and on the top was an engraving I hadn't expected. "For when the truth is stronger than fear." Emily touched the inscription with shaking fingers. "That's my mother's handwriting." Before she could say more, Jonah stiffened. "Someone's coming." We turned toward the door, and the lights in the vault abruptly shut off. Darkness swallowed us whole. Emily grabbed my arm. "Vincent, it's okay," I whispered. "Stay behind me." A voice echoed from outside the vault, smooth, controlled, and unmistakably confident. "Vincent DeLuca," Aldo Serrano called. "I was wondering when you'd finally join the family conversation." Emily's grip tightened. Serrano continued, his tone almost amused. "You've brought me exactly what I needed. The girl and the man who can open that box." Jonah's jaw clenched. "He locked us in." I shook my head. "No, he wants to corner us." Emily's voice trembled, not with fear, but with anger. "What do we do now?" I held the box against my chest. "We finish what our parents started," I said, "and we walk out of here alive." A metallic click sounded outside the door, then another. Serrano was unlocking the vault from the outside. Emily's heart pounded beside me. Jonah braced himself, and I readied the truth locked in my father's final message. The moment the door opened, we would face everything at once. The vault door swung open with a heavy metallic groan, flooding the room with harsh white light. Emily tensed behind me, gripping my jacket. Jonah shifted into position, jaw locked. And there, framed in the doorway like a man who believed he owned the world, stood Aldo Serrano, tall, immaculate suit. A predator's smile stretched thin across his face. "Vincent," he said, clapping slowly as he stepped inside. "You always were your father's favorite creation, loyal, predictable, and now here you are, bringing me exactly what I need." His gaze slid to Emily. "And you, my dear, you look so much like your mother." Elena was a stubborn woman, always hiding things that didn't belong to her. Emily's breath trembled. "They weren't yours to take." Serrano smirked. "Everything becomes mine eventually." I stepped forward, the box still in my hands. "Not today." He paused at that, just long enough for me to see the flicker of uncertainty behind his confidence. "You can't open that box without the code," he said, "and you can't leave here alive with it. So why don't we help each other?" He spread his hands. "You open it, I take the content, and perhaps I let the girl walk out unharmed." Emily pressed closer to me, her voice shaking. "He's lying." "I know." Serrano's smile dropped. "Vincent, don't make this harder than it needs to be." He motioned behind him. 2 armed guards stepped into the doorway. For a moment, the world narrowed to a single pounding heartbeat. Emily's fingers intertwined with mine. Jonah positioned himself between us and the guards, ready for whatever came next. I lifted the box slowly. "My father left a message inside this," I said. But he didn't design the code to protect the information. He designed it to expose whoever tried to steal it. Serrano's expression twitched. Barely, but enough. He didn't know the truth. I knelt and placed the box on the table. Emily watched, breath held, eyes wide with trust and terror. "Vincent," she whispered. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The lock on the box wasn't mechanical. It was biological. My father's final safeguard. A strip of metal along the lid glowed faintly as I pressed my thumb against it. A tiny spark pulsed beneath my skin. The box clicked open. Serrano exhaled in triumph. Finally, his voice cut off. Inside were stacks of papers, encrypted drives, photographs, taped confessions, all meticulously organized. But there was something else, too. A letter, addressed to me. Serrano lunged forward, but I grabbed the letter first. Jonah stepped between us, blocking his path. I opened the letter. My father's handwriting covered the page, familiar, steady, painfully human. "If you are reading this, Vincent, it means they killed me for uncovering the truth. And if she is with you, the daughter of the only woman I ever trusted, protect her. She carries the last piece they fear." Emily gasped softly. I kept reading. "The evidence in this box is not enough alone. I hid the key to understanding it inside a code only my blood can decipher. But she holds the second key. Together, you will finish what Elena and I began." Emily reached for my hand. "Vincent, he trusted us." Serrano snarled. "Enough." He snapped his fingers. "Take the box. Kill the driver." "Bring me the girl." The guards moved, but Jonah was faster, slamming one against the table. Emily ducked behind me as the other guard lunged forward. I grabbed a metal shelf and shoved it into him, knocking him off balance. The vault erupted into chaos. Shouts, crashing crates, the sharp clatter of metal against concrete. Serrano drew a weapon. Emily screamed, "Vincent!" I turned. Time slowed. Serrano aimed at me, but Jonah rushed forward, grabbing Serrano's arm and slamming it against the wall. The weapon skidded across the floor. Serrano fought like a man with everything to lose. "Emily!" I shouted. "Get the box!" She grabbed it, clutching it tightly to her chest. Serrano threw Jonah off and lunged toward her. I stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "You won't touch her," I growled. He swung at me. I caught his wrist, twisted, and slammed him back against the vault wall. He thrashed, spitting rage. "You don't understand," he roared. "If this gets out, all of us go down. The judges, the officials, the entire network. Your father built this system." "My father tried to dismantle it when he realized what it had become," I said. "And you murdered him for it." His eyes widened with raw hatred. "You're making a mistake, Vincent. This world only works if the powerful stay in control." "That's where you're wrong," I said. "This world only works when the innocent stop paying the price for your power." Behind me, Emily spoke suddenly, soft but strong. "Your world ends tonight." Serrano turned toward her, and that was his final mistake. Jonah grabbed him from behind, forcing him to his knees. For the first time, Serrano looked afraid. "You think you've won," he spat, "but the syndicate will come for all of you." I stepped closer, meeting his glare head-on. "Let them come, because by the time they do, the truth will already be everywhere." Samuel's plan clicked into place. We weren't here to hide the truth. We were here to release it. Emily handed me the small recorder Samuel had slipped into her pocket before we left the cabin. I pressed a button. The device began uploading every file from the box to multiple encrypted networks Samuel controlled. News outlets, law enforcement servers, whistleblower channels. Serrano watched in horror as his empire collapsed in front of him. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no. It's over," I said. Jonah tightened his grip. Time for justice. Serrano didn't fight anymore. His world was gone. Jonah dragged him out of the vault, and for the first time in years, I felt the weight on my shoulders shift, not disappear, but transform. My father's ghost no longer lingered in my shadow. He stood beside me. Emily stepped closer, her eyes full of tears that were no longer from fear. "You finished what he started," she said. We both did. I looked at her. This girl who had come to me as a trembling voice in the rain and stood now as the bravest person I'd ever known. "No," I said gently. Your mother did, my father did, and you made sure it wasn't lost. The night outside was cold, but when we walked out of the compound, box empty now, truths released into the world, it felt like dawn breaking. Emily slipped her hand into mine. Vincent, she whispered. Yes? Do you think they'd be proud of us? I squeezed her hand. I know they would. And together we walked forward, toward a future shaped not by fear, but by truth. What did you think of the story? Subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who will also be moved today.